all have that thought that just won't leave us alone. And most of us have gotten really good at pushing it aside. In today's episode, I'm sharing a simple tool to help you work with those thoughts when they show up so you can discern through them rather than override them. There's a particular kind of thought that doesn't behave like other thoughts. It comes up once and you notice it. It comes up again and you file it away. It comes up a third time and you start to feel a little strange about it. It's not loud, it's not urgent, it's just there. Maybe it's a person you haven't talked to in years and suddenly you keep thinking of them. Or maybe it's a place, or a decision that you thought that you'd already made, a word, an image, a question that keeps showing up on the edges of your day. Most of us have been taught to treat this as noise. Your brain is busy, you're stressed, you're probably just tired. But what if it's not noise? What if something is trying to get your attention in the only way it knows how? By being patient enough to keep coming back. Today we're talking about the thought that won't leave you alone, what it might mean, and how to work with it instead of just pushing it aside again. Welcome to More Than We See. I'm Natalie. So I'm going to tell you about a reading that I've done pretty recently. I was working with a woman, a professional woman, very grounded, not the type of person who would describe herself as spiritual, but open enough to be there with me. And about 15, maybe 20 minutes into the reading, I kept getting a sailboat. Not dramatically, not like the vision in the sky, just a sailboat sitting there quietly. I mentioned it and she paused and said, "That doesn't make sense. I don't sail. I don't know anybody with a boat. It just doesn't resonate at all." And I said, "Okay, let's just keep going." And we did. And the sailboat came back. Not because I was holding on to it, because I had moved on completely. It just came back. So by the fourth time, I stopped trying to make it literal. I started looking at it a little bit differently. Like, not what is a sailboat, but maybe what does a sailboat do? What does it look like in this motion? It moves with the wind. It reads conditions. It can be moored or held in place when it has somewhere it could go. And I said to her, "Is there something in your work right now where you might be moored to an idea, holding you in place when you could be moving?" And she went quiet. She mentioned she was working on a marketing campaign with a high-end client, and she had been stuck on one direction for weeks and could not let it go. Kept coming back to it with her instincts saying that it wasn't right. She was moored to an idea. Or that's where this landed for her. And when it did, she teared up a little bit, not because this was devastating news, but because she already knew this. She had been circling this for weeks. Something had been trying to show her, and she hadn't been able to see it yet. And that sailboat kept coming back because it had something to say. And I didn't understand it the first time, or the second, or the third. But it was patient. And I've experienced this too from the other side. Not as the person doing the reading, but as the person who was kept getting the signal and kept finding reasons not to hear it. So I was around a relationship, and it was a relationship in my life that I stayed longer than I should have. And we've had those, right? And the whole time there were these thoughts, there were these feelings in my body that were trying to tell me something. Like a tightness that showed up in certain moments. A quiet sense of something being off that I couldn't quite name. Thoughts that would surface and then I would talk myself right back out of them again. We just need to compromise more. I need to give in on this one. Every relationship has hard patches. I'm probably just being too sensitive. And the thing is those thoughts weren't wrong exactly. Compromise is real. Hard patches, certainly real. But I was using them in an override for something that kept coming back. Because that's the thing about signal that's true. It doesn't stop just because you have a good argument against it. It just waits. And then it comes back. Eventually, that relationship ended. And when it did, there was grief. But underneath of that was something a little quieter. It was a recognition that what I had been feeling all along had been right. And that I had spent a long time being very reasonable about something my body already knew. And I'm not telling you to get all dark about this. I'm telling you this because I think most of us have a version of this story. A time when something kept coming back and we kept finding really good reasons to stay exactly where we were. And I want to talk about why that happens and what you can do differently. So let's name the experience first, because I think a lot of people have this and maybe not know what to call it. So it's like a recurring thought for our purposes is an idea or an image or a person or a question that returns without being invited. You didn't go looking for it. You weren't in a meditation. It just comes back again and again. Now, there are a few things that this could be, and I want to be honest about all of them. The first is anxiety. Anxiety loops. It rehearses. It brings back things because your nervous system is trying to prepare for maybe a threat. That is actually its job, is to keep you safe by running through scenarios, checking for gaps, making sure you haven't missed something dangerous. If the recurring thought has a quality of dread, if it comes with tightness in your chest or spinning or what ifs or a feeling that something bad is about to happen, that's usually anxiety doing its job. Not nothing, but it's a different conversation. The second is unfinished business. Your brain is a pattern completion machine. It genuinely does not like loose ends. If something is unresolved, it keeps flagging it, not to torture you, but because it's waiting for closure that hasn't come yet. The person you've never called back yet. The conversation you didn't finish, the email you need to do, the decision you've been avoiding. Your mind will keep surfacing those until there is some kind of resolution. And sometimes the recurring thought isn't mystical at all. It's just your brain saying, hey, we still have this open. What are we going to do about this? The third possibility is something else entirely. Something that doesn't come from a part of you that worries or plans or catalogs unfinished tasks. It comes from the part of you that knows. And that part doesn't communicate the way your thinking mind does. It doesn't send you a clear memo. It sends you a sailboat 4 times until you slow down enough to ask the right questions. Or it sends you a feeling in your body in a particular moment with a particular person, over and over, until you stop explaining it away. The difference in quality between these 3 is something you can usually feel if you pay attention. Anxiety feels urgent and contracted, like pressure, like you need to act right now. Unfinished business feels heavy, like a weight that you just keep bumping into. But the third kind, the one we're really talking about here, tends to feel a little quieter, almost neutral, sometimes even a little gentle, like a tap on the shoulder rather than an alarm. It's not trying to scare you, it's not demanding action, it just keeps showing up because it has something it wants you to see. We are really good at overriding this because we've been trained very effectively over a long time to treat this kind of knowing as unreliable. From pretty early on, most of us learned that knowing things that we can't explain is not something you lead with. You get a feeling, you mention it. Someone asks you to prove it. And of course you can't, because that's not how this works. So you stop mentioning it, and eventually you stop noticing it. Or you notice it and immediately go to work explaining it away before somebody else can. The explaining away isn't dishonest, it's self-protective. Because if you take the thought seriously and nothing comes of it, you feel foolish. And that particular embarrassment is enough to make most people stop trying altogether. And in relationships especially, the override gets a lot of help because the reasons to stay are real. The love is real. The history is real. The fear of hurting somebody else is real. The fear of being wrong is real. So we reach for reasonable explanations. We just need to communicate better, or I need to be more patient. Every relationship has work, and none of that's wrong. But sometimes we use it to drown out something that keeps trying to surface anyway. The signal doesn't stop because you have a good argument against it, right? It just waits, and it comes back. That's actually how you know it's real. Anxiety can be reasoned with to some degree. Unfinished business resolves when you address it. But genuine knowing, the quiet, persistent kind, doesn't respond to your arguments. It just keeps showing up, patient and unchanged, saying the same thing it always said. So I'm going to offer you something simple. You don't have to use all of it. Take what fits, leave the rest. You don't have to use any of it. But when a thought comes back, or an image, or all of that recurring stuff, a second time, a third time, a fourth time, instead of filing it away, just acknowledge it. You don't have to analyze it or anything. Not trying to figure out what it means. Just kind of like, hey, I see you. You came back. That small act of acknowledgement does something. It interrupts the automatic override. It creates just enough space for the thought to exist without being dismissed. And if you want to go a little further, notice the quality of it. Not the content, the quality. Like, does it feel contracted or open, heavy or light, urgent or patient? Does it come with a sensation in your body? Does it arrive quietly? You're not trying to decode it right now. You're just taking its temperature. Getting familiar with what actually feels like when it shows up. Because you cannot trust a signal that you do not recognize. And you cannot recognize a signal that you've never let yourself look at directly. And if you want to go a step further, write it down, date it. Not like as a big assignment, not as a practice that you have to maintain, just a note or a record. The thought, the date, maybe a word about the quality, the temperature. And then come back to it like in a week or two. See if anything shifted. See if the thing you kept thinking about made more sense once more time had passed. What you're building is data, and I love data points. But it's your own personal record of how your knowing actually arrives. Maybe for you it comes as images, maybe as words or names, maybe it comes as a specific feeling in a specific part of your body at a specific kind of moment. You won't know the pattern until you've tracked it. And you can track it if you keep writing it down rather than dismissing before it has a chance to prove itself. So this week, just notice. If something comes back, let it come back. See what it's going to do. I'm not going to tell you every recurring thought is a message from the universe. Some of them are anxiety doing its job. Some are unfinished business waiting for closure. Some are your brain doing its very normal, very human, very relentless pattern completion. Some are not. And the only way to tell the difference is to stop treating them all the same way. The sailboat came back 4 times before I understood what it was saying. And it wasn't until I stopped asking, what is a sailboat, and started asking, what does a sailboat do, that the meaning became different. And that's actually a useful move for recurring thought. Stop asking what it is. Start asking what it's pointing towards. Take perspective. What it's trying to say is the only language it has. Because this kind of knowing doesn't communicate in logic. It communicates in images and feelings and things that keep returning until you're finally ready to receive them. The woman in that reading already knew her campaign's direction wasn't right. She didn't need a sailboat to tell her. She needed it to give her permission to trust what she already knew. And I already knew in that relationship that what my body was telling me. I just kept choosing the argument over the signal. I'm not saying that was wrong. I'm saying it had a cost. And the cost was time. Time I spent being very reasonable about something that didn't respond to reason. You don't have to act out every thought that comes back. You don't have to turn it into a decision or a plan. You don't have to blow up your life because something surfaced twice. But you can stop dismissing it on reflex, and you can let it exist. You can give it enough room to finish saying what it came to say. Sometimes the meaning arrives quickly, sometimes it takes weeks or months, and sometimes you never fully decode it. But something still shifts because you stopped overriding yourself. And over time, that becomes its own kind of practice. Not interpreting every signal perfectly, just learning to receive them instead of automatically turning them away. That's how trust gets built, not in one dramatic moment of clarity, but in 100 small decisions to let the thought come back and actually be there when it does. If something moved you in this episode, if a thought came to mind and you've been pushing it away, I just want you to notice it. You don't have to do anything with it right now. You don't have to figure it all out. Just let it be there. Just do some data tracking. Something came back for a reason. You don't have to know the reason yet. Just be. And I'll see you next time on More Than We See.